So welcome to this lightning talk session. And many thanks to the presenters, to the contribution to this conference. Really great presentations and at least really great proposals. I hope that we will have really great presentations now in this session B of lightning talk. So it's 1 hour session, 7 minutes per presentation, and then we have time for questions at the end. But feel free to put your questions in the chat and to have a parallel conversation if you want with the presenters in the chat, asking questions, asking for more information. So we will also the presenters, if you want to share some links after your presentation, it will be also interesting to enrich the discussion. The event, this session is being recorded. It will be made available in the YouTube channel and also in the Open Science Fair website. And you can also make some noise in the social media channels using the hashtag OSFAIR2021, or also mentioning the Twitter account of the Open Science Fair. So let's start with democratizing fairness by adding metadata to a storage platform researchers love to use. Let's hear Guido and see if we also love to use what.
All right, perfect. Can you all see this?
Perfect.
Are my slides visible?
So it's not the presenter mode?
Yep, it should be now. All right, perfect. All right, first of all, a finger up or a hands up for anybody who knows what uncloud is. See what happens now. So my name is Guido Arben. I'm with ARNet, the Australian Research Network and the infrastructure operator. I'm here to present on behalf of the CS3 Mesh for EOSC project, though I'll explain what that is. I should also explain that I come from the storage world, so I always feel like a spy in the house of love when I'm with these high-minded repository people. I will try to explain that we're trying to better our lives and get up to the levels of metadata and fairness. But I will also explain why I think we can be useful to you. So infrastructure operators such as NRENs, National Research Networks, but also big discipline operators have increasingly begun running Dropbox-like services. They're called EFSS, Enterprise File Sync and Share Storage Systems. They turn out to be really popular, not just with operators because they're easy to run and they attract users, but also with users and user groups. So in the case of ARNet, we've got easily tens of thousands of active users, a couple of petabytes under management of what is essentially unstructured data that would have otherwise gone somewhere else. Certainly not to a repository, grey IT. It comes with problems though, or at least challenges, in that all of us individually run these stores in different NRENs, different countries, and they're not interconnected. So while if you connected them, you would have one big data island with all data and all users addressable and shareable, that isn't currently the case. And because we all individually try to write in upper layer science relevant tools, workflow tools, we do this too many times and not well enough. And because we're all individually trying to petition vendors and standards bodies, we don't do that very efficiently either. So we came together and decided that this was a worthy topic for an EOSC grant. We explained to the EC that how about you let us interconnect all of these sites and data holdings and user bases and turn it into one big open data space. And they said, what a fine idea, and gave us a couple million to do this, and we're halfway in the project right now. Half of the project is to build this mesh to make sure that all of this data is interconnectable, and the other half of the project is to build one big deployment surface so that if you build an app or you interconnect with an app provider or a web service or a portal or a repository, you only have to do the integration once and it connects to all of the data held within the mesh. And to point out how useful this is, the project is developing 4 particular pilot use cases. And one of these use cases, the second on this slide, is the open data systems one. I happen to chair it, so I feel relatively competent to talk about what it is. This must be, you guys must understand this like your back pocket, but to storage people, this is still relatively new stuff. instead of dealing with data as just enormous amounts of bytes on disk, you start realizing that to researchers, they are collections in the making. So this is a workflow that we're building inside of the EFSS, and if we do it well, we will make sure that everybody who joins this mesh will also have this functionality available. So define what you're trying to publish, do all of the linking of files, do all of the metadata annotation, and then provide plugins, interconnectors, so that researchers can publish easily. The point is democratization, right? To anybody who now goes, but my repository does this a lot better. I'm sure it does, but we're talking about all of those tens of thousands of users that otherwise wouldn't have known what a repository even is. So to do the metadata annotation, we are borrowing from a big linguistics project called Paradisec, who have already built this particular tool that you're looking at called Describo. It has a Describo online version, which is a web service, has all of the metadata goodness that I think you guys are used to and we weren't so far. Allows users to do metadata annotation, can also do automatic harvesting from profiles, from ORCID, etc., and then eventually pushes it into an RO crate, which I believe is sufficiently standards-based. And then around that, we provide UE integration into the native interface of the EFSS, into uncloud in this particular case, but there's a few others that we have in the crosshairs. And so as you can probably tell, the piloting for this particular use case is being done in Germany, so hence the German interface. And the point is that the left-hand side is what a user would normally see, very much a Dropboxy interface, but if they go into the publication flow, they get nudged around, hey, how about you publish this to an open platform? Hey, how about you do the annotation correctly? Hey, I hear you've just been told that the science project that you're working on needs to publish to an open repo. Can I help you, etc.? So there's nudging, and there's wizards available to do the right thing. And we're writing connectors. First of all, we're writing a standards-based connector. We're looking at SWORD v3, and we're writing bespoke connectors into Invenio, Zenodo, Open Science Framework, and we've got a few others in the crosshairs too. That's it. I think I'm well in under 7 minutes. If you're interested, I realize this is just a teaser. If you're interested, either chat me up or look at one of these links. The point very much is that we want to build up to the point of science substrate, all of the stuff that individual disciplines shouldn't have to build, data mobility, data safeguarding, etc. And we want to make available those metadata tools that you as the disciplines or you as the librarians want to use but don't want to build. So if you're interested, get in touch. We can still do a whole lot of customization. We can still listen to requirements, and we can still plug this into other people's workflows. Thank you.
Great, Guido. Many thanks. And thank you for using the time in the best way. So
what was that, 6 minutes?
6 minutes, yeah. Thank you very much. So if you have questions to Guido, just use the chat, or at the end you can also turn on your audio and ask questions, but let's also use the chat for parallel conversations, and Guido can also share some useful links if needed. Applying the FAIR principles to data in a hospital, an interdisciplinary collaboration by Nuria Rosinak. So Nuria, you can start sharing your screen and start your presentation. Many thanks for your contribution to Open Science Fair.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Nuria Keral Rosinak. I'm a researcher in the Biosemantics group in the Leiden University Medical Center in the Netherlands. And I'm here to present you our work about applying and our experience about applying the FAIR principles into data in a hospital as a very interdisciplinary collaboration. As you can see, is an interdisciplinary collaboration, so we are many authors. And so COVID-19 crisis is a global challenge that it brought into focus that needs faster interventions. So clinicians and researchers need to share data findings and collaborate in order to answer clinical questions such as what are the criteria that define the different disease trajectories? So to answer these questions, patient data needs to be linkable within hospitals and also across hospitals and even across borders. And this data also needs to be available and reusable for further analysis in order to make more accurate predictions and make better interventions. But observational patient data, is first collected in hospitals. So data in hospitals patient data in hospitals to monitor the health status of patients is very heterogeneous. In nature, we have several types of data that is collected in hospitals, like clinical observations or different lab measurements or omics data. Even also data in the ICU, but also is very heterogeneous in the description and storage. This data is collected in different information systems. So the challenge here is to link all this data within the hospital, but also with external knowledge in order to answer all these complex biomedical questions. So the challenge is to have clinical data interoperability in and outside hospitals. Current recommendations are to apply FAIR and open science for health data. In fact, there are already several European projects, such as the European Joint Program on Rare Diseases, or EGPRD, that are applying these strategies. And for example, in this project, verification, the experience on doing verification on rare disease patient registries is that it's a very collaborative effort between different stakeholders. So our goal was to apply FAIR and open science within the LUMC hospital in order to fight the COVID-19 crisis in the hospital. So this group was formed in order to fight this crisis, and is a very interdisciplinary group with different stakeholders. So this gave us the opportunity to apply the FAIR principles with hypothesis of using ontological models to allow interoperability for machines, and applying these very interdisciplinary collaboration for verification. So here the goals were apply FAIR principles at source, so in the hospital, on observational patient data to enable federation with open knowledge and enable visiting data. So our strategy was to collaborate and complement. What I mean is that verification was at source, and verification complements existing hospital information systems. And here I'm showing you the FAIR architecture that we plan, and is based in ontological linking models to link all the data, and also with semantic web technologies, open semantic web technologies, and standards to make this data machine actionable, to have this data ready for analysis. FAIR was also very performed in parallel and very collaborative. So clinical questions from researchers and clinicians were the driving force for modeling these conceptual models to link data and structure metadata. Here I'm showing you the ontological models that we developed for the data in order to link data. We started with clinical measurements, and we based our modeling on the EGPRD core model for representing common data elements in rare disease patient registries, that is based on this measurement process that allow us also to make all these different semantic types easily linked between them. And also we structure metadata using DCAT2, and here I'm showing you the ontological model that we performed. So we perform these semantic linking models using semantic web to make data linkable with the open knowledge, with community standards. We applied FAIR data points on top of existing infrastructure to publish, expose, structure metadata. and make machine actionable clinical data. So both ontological modeling were performed in parallel as a very coordinated effort between different stakeholders in the hospital. And also I'm showing you here an evaluation of the fairness of the one data set before verification and after verification. Here we are evaluating findability. As rapidly you can check that thanks to fair data points, we make our data sets more fair. So we also provide fair patient data as machine actionable digital objects, and we demonstrated this with 3 different applications on top of this fair patient data. So we perform federated queries with the linked open data. Here I'm showing you one of these federated queries. We, using semantic web technologies, we provide web APIs on top of this linked data, and we also are providing hypothesis generation top based on knowledge graph built on top of this linked data. So, to finalize, we investigated the implementation of the FAIR principles in hospitals based on this interoperability for machines across domains and services and interdisciplinary collaboration approach. We provided a fair research data management for verification of observational data of hospitalized patients, where we had the opportunity to share best practices. Verification is adopted in parallel for data and metadata, and is guided by research users' questions. Verification comes with some difficulties. One is that interdisciplinary is challenging, and also the data privacy issue to access data. And also we provided this patient data as machine actionable of fair digital objects ready to be reused for analysis. To conclude, a fair research data management based on ontological models, interdisciplinary collaboration, open science, and semantic web, and fair data points is providing infrastructure in the hospital for machine actionable data, available for integrative analysis and reusable for applications in and across open knowledge. As future, we want to apply this visiting data approach, querying fair patient data across several hospitals. And the structured metadata exposed in fair data points can allow us, we envision that allow us to make this, how to access this data interpretable for machines. So thank you, my group, the Beat COVID team in the LMC, and different people that has inspired this work, and ready for questions. Thank you.
Okay, many thanks. Thank you. If you want to share any useful link in the chat, please feel free, Nuria. You can stop your screen share. Thank you very much. Let's proceed to the fourth presentation. The current practices, costs and benefits of fair implementation in the pharmaceutical industry. Ebtisam Al-Harbi. Ebtisam, so we are available to hear and see your presentation. So feel free to start your screen share. At the end, you can ask questions. I hope that we can have 6 or 7 minutes for that. Now let's hear Ebtisam, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ebtisam, a PhD student at the University of Manchester. Today, I'm going to present to you our paper, which is entitled Exploring the Current Practices, Cost and Benefit of Fair Implementation in Pharmaceutical Industry. And this work done by Ebtisam and supervised by Carol, Caroline, Nick, and Regina at the University of Manchester. So the main motivation for this work is, until today, the global death of COVID-19 has passed 4 million, a loss roughly equivalent to the population of Los Angeles. So previous research has highlighted the availability of previous SARS data presented in a fair format could have helped the response to the pandemic. And to ensure an effective response to the future outbreak, fair implementation is needed, and the availability of previously generated data is vital in a fair form. So fair implementation in pharmaceutical R&D. Seeing the potential of FAIR in the pharmaceutical industry has responded quickly to tackle the challenges faced by the large, complex, and global enterprise. So as you know, research and development in pharmaceutical industry is becoming increasingly data-driven, and managing its asset according to FAIR principle remains costly and challenging. So previous research, as you can see, has shown adopting this principle as a cooperated data management has the potential to increase the efficiency of drug research and development and accelerate innovation. So progress has been made toward implementation of this principle, and this led by Pistoia Alliance, which is a collaboration in the pre-competitive space that aims to facilitate fair implementation in the pharmaceutical industry. And FAIR Plus, this is an ongoing EU project to develop tools and guidelines for making data align with FAIR principles. Despite the potential of implementing FAIR, turning FAIR into reality poses significant challenges. So for example, existing research has briefly highlighted the obstacle that might affect the FAIR implementation at an enterprise level. So for example, the financial investment in terms of the upfront cost of revising legacy data to comply with data standard, technical infrastructure needed to implement FAIR. So at the moment, we have limited availability of technology and standard support FAIR implementation. Legal compliance, this is like in terms of data protection regulation compliance as well. Cultural change in terms of training, education, and the lack of incentives. So the question becomes, what are the associated costs and benefit of verification? And how are decisions made about the retrospective verification of data set in pharmaceutical R&D? To answer this question properly, we conduct a semi-structured interview to understand and explore the current situation in depth. And this interview guide covered by the current FAIR implementation. The participants, so we recruit 14 participants from the FBA, which is European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industry and Association, who partner with FAIR Plus. This study get approval from the University of Manchester to conduct this type of research. And in terms of the data analysis, we analyze the data thematically. So we use open coding. This open coding is so the data lead us or guide us to find some themes. We conduct also the intercode reliability analysis, and we got substantial agreement. And here is the result. So we identify 3 main themes, and each theme has several sub-themes. So for example, we got verification cost, and this verification cost in terms of the resource required, in terms of a human resource, technical resource needed to implement FAIR, and also in terms of the cultural change and the change of the culture in, with an organization in order to implement FAIR effectively. The second theme was verification benefit, and verification benefit in terms of the reusability of data asset and the making previously generated data align with FAIR principles. The other sub-theme for this, it's the cost saving. So the reduction of cost by avoiding rerunning the experiment if the data in FAIR format. And the third theme, which is like the emerging theme from our data, was the verification decision-making process. And this was missing in the literature. So we find 3 sub-themes related to the making decision about the data prioritization, legal and ethical consideration, and management commitment to implement FAIR. And here example for each theme. For example, in terms of verification cost, B3 says, it is the resource cost of a curator and data specialist, data steward, the resource cost of defining and building metadata models, the implementation cost of things like reference and master data management. And here is like another example related to the verification benefits. So for example, B5 says, the data is in a form that can cut and dice based on the questions that are being asked rather than the original performance hypothesis. So you open the door for machine learning and artificial intelligence. And here is another example about the third theme, which is related to the decision making. We have to be selective. The reason against would be have a lot of legacy data and people have to say that interested in, or someone has make a decision that these data are valuable enough to invest in the work required for verification. After that, although, for example, at the moment, FAIR by design is dominated, implementing FAIR for legacy data set is essential as well. So the emerging from that is the process of making legacy data align with FAIR principle, and this involves several factors and many stakeholders and several steps as well. So for example, here, the management team, for example, the data team define the process and determine the scope of the verification and assess the effort and identify the benefit. And based on that, they prioritize the use cases and identify related study. But the management team at this, for example, conceptual framework, approve the verification and provide feedback and ask for a decision. So what is the next step? So the next step is to develop a decision-making framework, which is in a form of the toolkit to aid decision maker in pharmaceutical research and development to determine the associated cost and the benefit of making this legacy data align FAIR. And this could help the decision maker to prioritize their data set accordingly. And here I invite you to read our accepted paper, which is exploring the current practices in data intelligence journal. So this is the end of my talk. So thank you very much. And here our email if you want to know more. Thank you.
Great, Ebtisam. Many thanks for this presentation. You can stop sharing the screen. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. I think it's very good and useful that we have this parallel conversation, sharing links, sharing useful information in the chat. So feel free to ask questions to all the presenters and of course to Ebtisam Al-Harbi about the last presentation. So great talks until now. Let's hear Eli Papadopoulou, Open Science and Scholarly Communication in Greece. So the floor is yours. You can also share and present the other authors of this presentation.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Let me just make this presentation mode. And I know that Yannis Tsakonas, my colleague, should be here in any minute. He had some other conflicts. So if you see him, he will jump in at the end of the presentation and say a few things more on that. But I see other colleagues here, and I also hi to them as well. All right, so let me start. For this, so I'm Eli Papadopoulou. I work for Athena Research and Innovation Center in Greece, and I'm also affiliated with OpenAIR as the OpenAIR NOAA, the Greek National Mathematics Desk. I had this role together with HIA-Link, the Hellenic Academic Libraries link, where my colleague Yannis Tsakonas, who is also the co-author of this abstract that you see in the OSFAIR page, also works. And this presentation will provide an overview of how we build the foundations in Greece to for the Greek research ecosystem to start gaining more the open science uptake at the national level. Okay, so who we are, just a little bit of context. We are 2 OpenAIR members, so our work has been funded during the past years from OpenAIR. OpenAIR is the organization for scholarly communication. Athena Research Center focuses on the researchers and the research infrastructures, and drawing all this information and the needs of researchers and the data intensive needs of researchers to the landscape. And here LINK, the Hellenic Academic Libraries LINK, is the consortium of academic libraries who bring the needs of academic libraries in terms of skills, in terms of infrastructures, and we work together to try and harmonize what's been happening and make sure that we avoid silos on what we're doing at the national level. We have been having a very good collaboration to support different audiences like researchers, research performer organizations, funders, and the EOSC and the implementation of EOSC at the national level through our activities. And we do that by trying to provide sustainable solutions on the actions that we undertake. The key action since now is that we have been trying to, and we have built the community for open science in Greece. And as you saw in yesterday's keynote, that's not an easy job to do, and that's something that takes time, and it really needs an effort there to try and find, you know, the different communities and link them all together and make them, you know, spread awareness towards open science practices. And another thing that we have been doing is to try and understand the landscape in terms of the research data services that are available in Greece, and enhance what is already there, plus develop what we need in order for it to be complete. And what we've done for that is we developed two big infrastructures. So the one infrastructure that have services for data access, data preservation, data processing, and data analysis. So such as is the Helix, the Hellenic Data Service, and we made sure that the Helix is interoperable and interconnected with the Hardware, which is the infrastructure that HearLink has developed for to serve the needs of its universities and the academic staff and the researchers that are coming from this sector. And as I mentioned, we made sure that we apply all of the same practices, open and fair principles, so integrated different services for PIDs, you know, apply metadata, you know, avoid heterogeneity issues, all of that. We made sure to follow them and interconnect the different services in light also of what was said before from the previous, from Guido, I think it was, from the previous presenter, of how connecting different workflows is important. The OpenAir effect on that, how OpenAir contributed to that, is that provided the tools to enhance practices that practices on the level of repositories. So we applied the OpenAir guidelines for that to make them compatible and make sure that you know, they interoperate with each other. We are now in preliminary discussions about integrating DMPs, the Argos DMP tool with at the university level, and also we have enhanced the libraries with new tools for its data management, such as, for example, which is for anonymization of data. In terms of support, we have been working towards supporting both librarians and researchers. Librarians meaning that not only providing the tools, as I mentioned before, that are already there and they should be aware of, and they should know how to use them in order to support the researchers, but also other materials that they need to promote open access and open science, and materials such as fact sheets, such as translated guidelines for publishing in the Open Research Europe and all those things that are very useful to them in their toolkit, in their LibGuides to support the researchers. HearLink has to foster scholarly communication even more. They have set up a help desk. They have set up a help desk that is within the department of the scholarly communication in HearLink to provide support for open access journals. So they have information about which open access journals open access journal contracts, and also they list the publishers options and different waivers that apply to the Greek researchers. They also monitor the progress of these programs, and here you can see a figure of that. We also provide skills and awareness to librarians and researchers because librarians needed to, they have the open access field, they know it, they're very aware and they're very competent on that for many years, but they feel not that confident, let's say, on the research data management side of things. So we made sure that we had a series of webinars with, not webinars, training events with them to provide more context and the necessary tools and capacities that they can now take and apply in their organizations. HearLink also has an open access monographs community to highlight the opportunities in the Greek context. And you can see here how we have evolved. This is the OpenAir in Greece community, the OpenAir, not the Open Science. The Open Science is bigger. So I'm highlighting here this. We are currently more than 2,500 members in the OpenAir in Greece emailing list. And here you can see some of the events and how it has and the impact, like the uptake that it had to the users. Yes, very close. Yes. We believe that we believe that scientific results should be widely shared. The economies of scale that the exploitation of data bring is of great benefit, and that EOSC and the software should be, developed according to FOSS principles and what EOSC comes to bring into all of these aspects. So we have tried to also we have worked, and FAIRness Center set up a task force, and we have worked with a diverse set of national stakeholders and proposed a Greek plan, a national open science plan for Greece, with some commitments, which has been greatly received and positively received by the Ministry of Digital Governance, who have added that in the digital strategy. And we have done that also, we have worked and collaborated with each other to do that also at the level of universities. Finally, and I'm concluding now, this is, again, we want, our aim is to provide support at the technical, operational, and legal, and all the aspects where open science practices. And we did through organizing concentrated events for COVID. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the last presentation directly from Brazil, Perception of Researchers in the Preparation of Data Management Plan by Viviane Veiga. So, Viviane, thank you very much for the contribution to the conference. You can start sharing the screen. Thank you. Feel free to ask questions also in the chat for all the presenters. Thank you, Viviane.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Viviane Veiga, professor, researcher, and coordinator of the Oswaldo Cruz Foundation Libraries Network and the GoFair Brazil Health Network. I'm going to present to you a study called The Perception of a Researcher in the Preparation of a Data Management Plan, which was carried out by the Institute of Communication and Scientific and Technological Information in Health. The authors of this study are myself, Simone Dib, Eric Penedo, Aline Alves, and Patricia Henning. Well, we know that opening research data is a priority on the national and international agendas of research institutions, universities, and research funding. For this reason, a new demand arises in the scientific field, the creation of a DMP to manage the research flow from its initial stage to its conclusion. A DMP is a dynamic, living document that describes in detail how research data will be collected, processed, stored, shared, accessed, and the conditions under which it can be reused. Although there are several advantages in adopting a DMP in scientific practice, we know that its elaboration is not a trivial task for researchers who have not had this experience in their traditional roles. Well, this is the Fiocruz Data Management Plan tool, which we call FIOPGG, in English FIODMP. This tool has been developed since 2019 with the objective of meeting institutional demands as well as the specificities of the local scientific community, respecting the national legislation. The researchers can choose the simplified version, which is already in operation. Soon, it's intended to launch its FAIR version with machine actionable resources, which allow automated integration with other systems, facilitating creating a DMP and optimizing the researcher's time. In this sense, some questions were necessary, such as what is the researcher's perception regarding the elaboration of a DMP? What are the difficulties and doubts in creating a DMP? What kind of support does the researcher need to prepare a DMP? What can be implemented in a DMP to facilitate completing forms? Based on these questions, we tried to identify doubts, facilities, and difficulties found in the use of the FIODMP tool, as well as the system interface, in the attempt to understand how they complete the template of this tool. We also accept the improvement suggestion to promote its use as a management tool to facilitate data sharing in reuse. The FIODMP tests were carried out with 4 major Fiocruz projects of different health domains between the months of August and December 2020. All interactions were recorded in audio and video to support the analysis. From the observations of user system interactions and the results obtained in the interview, it was possible to identify appropriate points and suggestions for improvements in relation to the interface, understanding of the context, and general perception of FIODMP, in addition to the challenges faced. It was noticed that the researchers had more difficulties and doubts to answer the questions related to the ethical and legal issues, where they indicated that they needed assistance from the legal staff to help them answer the questions. Another important question that was difficult for researchers to answer was the one related to metadata. Most researchers had no knowledge of what metadata was, nor the standards to adopt. After the researchers' responses, we researched the main DMP tools to see how researchers answer metadata questions. 128 public data management plans available in these tools were analyzed. DMP Online 50 data management plans, Argus 8 data management plans, and DMP2 70 data management plans. In DMP2, we saw 83% did not answer the question or answered incorrectly about metadata. In the Argus, we saw 63% did not answer the question or answered incorrectly. And in the MP online, 90% did not answer the question or answered incorrectly. After this exercise with the researcher, we realized the importance of conducting metadata-oriented training and how these questions should be answered in the DMP. It's necessary to highlight the importance of institutional infrastructure to guarantee the system's sustainability regarding operational flows and procedures involving the participation of every stakeholders. Data curators, librarians, experts in ethical and legal issues, and system analysts, as well as the necessary of periodic training and dissemination of instructional materials. In addition, it is essential to create a data steward team, which can help the researchers monitor the scientific community's trends and needs, which would warrant a constant evaluation and availability of the system, as well as new technologies to ensure data and information sustainability, security, and integrity. Well, if you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you very much.
Okay, many thanks, Viviana. Thank you for the great contribution to this conference. So it was really a pleasure to hear all these 6 presenters and the great initiatives and projects or studies being held by them. So really great. Also good to see that some exchange of information was done in the chat, also sharing with some questions asked and replies and links shared. So if the presenters want to share any other useful link, feel free to do it now in the chat. So we are short on time, but we have, let's see if there is 1 or 2 questions that you want to raise. So Patricia is asking here to be interested to understand who defines what a correct answer is there. If there is a paper with more information, I'd be keen to read it. So I think this is a question to Viviane, and also Ellie is asking something to you, Viviane, or is also asking you to contact them for the Argos. I don't know if the others want to say something. So Natalia, Guido, Nuria, Ebtisam, Ellie, and Viviane. Just we can have 1 more minute if you want to highlight something relevant from your talk or from the questions here in the chat. Do you want to say something more? So just feel free. I know that we don't have a lot of time, but we can use. So do you have any information that you would like to share or any?
Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Go ahead.
Let's start with Ellie, and then Guido, and then.
Okay, thank you. No, just to state what I also added in the chat. Sorry, but what you see in Argos are the public DMPs, so that we have more data. Please, when you're doing those kind of studies, contact us, and we're happy to provide you with an anonymized version of those data. And that would be, I guess, that would increase the impact of your study. Thank you.
Guido?
So if you'd allow me to share my video, I will do that. And to the audience, I noticed a good number of people downloading that little clip that I sent out. If anybody has comments, I'd love to hear them, because this is, we're like I keep saying, we're just uncouth storage people. We're trying to get this right. So which is why we're borrowing existing metadata tooling. But if there is input, or if you'd like to get in touch, or if you'd like to know who your local node is, because we are building this as a mesh of existing nodes, more than happy to get you in touch with these sorts of people. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah,
and so given that there's people who did download it, I'd love to hear what you think.
Okay, I was one of them.
Perfect. I'd love to hear what you think.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I think Viviane and Nuria want to say also something more? Vivian, yes, please, if you want to say, or you just reply in the chat.
Okay, yeah, thank you. About this researcher, we will publish this research in a journal, so I can share in some this paper, but we use the guides from Science Europe for this research and in this GMP. If you have more questions about this, I can talk later for this subject.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Vivian.
From my side, I would be delighted to answer any questions. Please contact me or contact Marco Ruz or anybody in the group. I posted into the chat the link to our preprint, and I would be also very happy to share experiences with some other people that maybe are already also applying the FAIR principles in hospital data.
Okay, thank you. I'm also sharing here the link, your link. Someone was asking about your link, Guido. But I already shared it to Carol. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I think we are done. I'm not sure if Natalia also want to say something or add some. If not, so I think important information was shared here. Great presentations, great initiatives, projects. Natalia, do you want to say something?
I've just added a link to our project website, and of course, feel free to contact us if you have any questions about Dataverse or this project or the use of repositories in Poland. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, just to all participants, ensure that you copy paste the links, all the useful links in the chat. You can also copy the entire chat. We will leave the session open for some seconds more in order for you to allow. So let's proceed with the conference. There are already demos starting. So we have 6 demos running right now, starting right now. In fact, I already should be in one to share. So thank you very much for all the presenters, the contributions, and for all the participants to be here. Okay, see you. Let's see you in the demos.
Thank you for hosting.
And later in the panel sessions. Bye bye.
Thank you for moderating. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. So Andrea, just